Hello, my name's Isaac and welcome to the Green Left Show. This week we've got a really awesome interview with the incredible independent senator and Djab Wurrung Gunnai Gundjitmara woman Lidia Thorpe ahead of the invasion day on January 26 and talking about some of her priorities going into the start of 2025. So before we get to that, I'd just like to mention you can become a supporter of Green Left to help us keep this project going and continuing in this new year. And it makes a huge difference for people to sign up. We don't take any corporate sponsorships or advertising, so we rely entirely on our generous supporters and donations as well. So if you want to help us out, you can head to greenleft.org.au/support or greenleft.org.au/donate, and it makes a huge difference. Another thing you can do to help us out is to share this video and share it around on your social media or with your friends and family, and that is also a massive help. Also, before we get started, I'd just like to mention that this video was recorded on stolen land, the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation that was never ceded and always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Now let's get on with the interview.
Hello, my name is Chloe, and today I'm speaking to Djab Wurrung Gunnai Gundjitmara woman and independent Senator Lidia Thorpe. I would like to acknowledge that I'm speaking from the lands of the Gadigal people, land that was stolen and never ceded. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. And thanks for joining me today, Lidia.
My pleasure. Thank you, and Free Palestine.
With a possible early federal election coming up, what do you think are the key issues impacting First Nations people that Labor ignored or neglected?
Well, there's so many of them. Labor made many promises to our people. We heard a lot of those promises and lies during the voice referendum, which we knew would not succeed. They talked about being committed to the Uluru Statement in full, but now, you see, ever since that referendum, Labor walking back their support for treaty, their support for truth-telling, or any actions relating to those areas. During the voice referendum, I tried to negotiate, particularly with the Attorney General and the Minister for Indigenous Australians, about deaths in custody and child removal rates, but they were not interested. What we got from that process was the Attorney General announcing that they'll count in real time how many deaths in custody we have. So basically they agreed to counting the body bags coming out, but they didn't commit to ending deaths in custody or looking at any of those remaining 339 recommendations from the Royal Commission. Genocide, the ongoing genocide, slow sophistication of this genocide in this country against my people continues. 24,000 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children in out-of-home care today and growing. The incarceration rates of our children, they've done nothing to address the effects of genocide. And so here we are going into an election. You don't hear much about what they're going to do for us in this country. What they've done is it's a race to the bottom. Nuclear power, more gas, more destruction of land and water. When they destroy our land and water, they destroy us because we are connected to everything in this country. So it's very disappointing. I thought we could get some wins on the board through a Labor government, and we haven't been able to achieve that at all. And yeah, I'll keep holding them to account, calling for a treaty, truth-telling, and the end to the many injustices my people face.
Yeah, it's clear that Labor have failed on so many things. And we're actually going to, later on in the interview, we're going to come back to the failed referendum and truth telling and then locking up children as well. But before that, we wanted to ask about your time in the Senate, which has been devoted to protecting the views and concerns of the Black sovereign movement. What are your hopes for the movement for 2025?
Well, we'll stick to the agenda of stopping the genocide amongst perpetrated against our people in this country, and the 240 years of trying to wipe us off the face of this earth, trying to deny us that we are sovereign peoples of this land. That's what the Black sovereign movement is about. It's about um, maintaining our resistance and maintaining our message of we are the sovereign people. The Crown is not sovereign. The Parliament is not sovereign. We are sovereign. So that is first and foremost what the Black sovereign movement is about, but also addressing the genocide, which is deaths in custody, child removal, incarceration rates. We see even through this election how both parties are doing nothing about reducing the incarceration rates of our people. So that is always on the agenda. We have Black sovereign movement members, including myself, who've lost family members to this racist colonial system. So truth telling is, rounds that all up, if you like, and the Black sovereign movement will continue to call on a truth telling process nationally. We see, in Victoria that's happening. In Queensland, they shut it down because, some people don't like to hear the truth. So we have governments, particularly right-wing governments, that want to shut down any truth telling in this country, and we will continue to tell the truth, and we encourage everybody. We don't need governments allowing us to tell the truth. We get out there and we tell the truth, and we use every means necessary to do so. And also, protecting our cultural heritage is a key priority area. Many song lines are being destroyed. Our waterways are sick. And our country is also sick. It's dying. So our priority as sovereigns has always been about looking after our land and our water and our people, and we'll maintain that as a priority forevermore.
Coalition leader Peter Dutton is deploying a culture war against Invasion Day, January 26th. What do you think of his Trumpian tactics and attacks? Will they work?
Look, they're already causing damage. I mean, we do live in a racist country, unfortunately, and we saw again that coming out during the referendum. But what my people face on the streets every day, going into shops and using public transport, or just trying to, live their daily life. Racism is real. Racism is everywhere, and it's causing a lot of harm. So there are elements of his approach and the right-winged approach which does work. It's putting fear into people. But for those that see past that and see that this is just a political stunt, a very disgusting, dirty political stunt that only divides this country, which only can cause harm to people in this country, that's not what a leader does or should be about. It should be about bringing people together. So Dutton is a racist. Dutton is a violent person. Dutton used to be a Queensland police officer who caused damage to a lot of blackfellas on the street, wheeling his power around the streets. So I'm not surprised by his rhetoric. It's what we need to eradicate in this country. We see, his mates like Pauline Hanson and Ralph Babbitt continue to perpetrate this racist regime that hurts people. And white people are becoming the minority in this country, and I think they're really scared of that. Black and brown people are rising up, and they're getting more and more desperate in their messaging, and I think that's because they're scared and they want to put that fear into others.
Lydia, your private genocide bill has received support from Senator Payman. Could you tell us a bit more about the genocide bill and what are the chances of it receiving more crossbench support?
Well, the genocide bill is about removing the Attorney General's sole decision-making power from allowing any genocide case to be heard in this country, in any of the courts. So Dreyfus, the Attorney General, decides solely himself whether a court case can happen in this country on genocide. And he doesn't allow it. And the previous Attorney General and the previous Attorney General and all of the rest of them have not ever allowed a genocide case to be heard in this country. Now, this is a colonial tool that they use to get away with genocide. So the same fiat, it's called the Attorney General's fiat, the same fiat they have in New Zealand and Canada, and I think they have it in the UK as well. So that stops anybody in those countries from bringing on a case of genocide against genocidalists. So my bill was to remove his power. Now, that bill was listed to be voted on the last sitting day of 2024, the day I got suspended for dealing with the racists. So the bill didn't happen, conveniently. But I was able, through Senator Payman, to put through 3 other bills, which are what we're calling like red flag kind of other ways that we can change legislation that supports genocide. And those 3 bills, one is, we've got Genocide Risk Reporting Bill of 2024. So that's the first one. And that bill establishes an anti-genocide commissioner who is responsible for supporting compliance with the Act. So that's the first bill. Then the second bill is a Treasury Laws Amendment, which basically is divesting from illegal Israeli settlements bill 2024. And that bill amends the Future Funds Act of 2006 to prohibit financial investments from Australia's sovereign wealth fund in companies operating in illegal Israeli settlements. And secondly, this bill also amends the Australian Charities and Not-for-Profits Commission Act 2012 to prohibit Australian registered charities from funding companies operating in illegal Israeli settlements. So we're trying to tweak existing legislation to stop funding genocide. And thirdly, the Defence Trade Controls Amendment. Genocide, War Crimes and Crimes Against Humanity Bill 2024. This bill amends the Defence Trade Controls Act 2012 to prohibit the minister granting permits for defence and strategic goods lists, export activity that risks committing serious violations of international law, including genocide, and that such activity cannot fall under newly introduced AUKUS permit-free arrangements. So that bill requires that the minister take decisions of the International Court of Justice and the ICC into account, and also that the bill also amends the Customs Act of 1901 to prohibit the export of military end-use goods where it is likely they will become available to a state that is the subject of an ICJ order under the Genocide Convention. So those three bills, if there's an election, they will still stay on the papers in Parliament. But if there's not an election, then we will deal with that when we go back, which is planned to be February, unless there's an election called.
Yeah, and it's so important. And we really hope that those bills pass. Do you think they're going to receive crossbench or more crossbench support?
I actually do. I think they will. Some of those areas I think will, it's not too controversial for some of those crossbenchers who like to kind of sit on the fence a little. But certainly, I mean, Senator Payman and I introduced that together, although I wasn't allowed in the chamber that day. Senator Payman did that for me while I was protesting on the lawns against genocide. So, it was great to be able to work together on that day.
Yeah, and it's great to hear about that solidarity between you and Senator Payman as well. Lidia, you talked about truth-telling as a necessary first step in the lead up to the failed Voice referendum. What role can state and federal governments play to make this necessary truth-telling process a reality?
Well, they can just start a truth-telling process around the country. It's not very hard. We've seen the states start these processes. We can complement state processes with a national process. We tell our children to tell the truth, yet we have governments that are blocking truth-telling processes that are going to set us all free. Who are, a truth-telling process will give people a real connection in this country and an understanding of where we are today and how today became today and why our people are so poor, sick, dying, dispossessed from their lands and their waters. So we just need a government with some appetite to heal this country in a more genuine way that will last forever. I mean, I keep saying this country has an identity crisis. It doesn't know who it is. It doesn't know whether it's a shrimp on the barbie, a pie and a stubby at the footy, or the oldest continuing living culture on the planet. Like, it's not rocket science. It's very simple. And you would think, having the oldest continuing living culture on the planet, that you would want to learn how to look after the land and the water and each other. So they are blocking this process for their own political gains. I think truth-telling is, when you're a perpetrator, truth-telling can be very confronting. And I think perpetrators can heal also from some truth-telling and some understanding and some empathy and some connection to what this land is really about. So I'll continue to call for truth-telling. It's what we should have done before the referendum. to show how racist the country was, then we wouldn't have needed to go through a wasted exercise. However, that fell on deaf ears with Albanese bullying through the process, and a lot of people are still reeling in that hurt and that pain.
You have been a strong advocate for Palestine. Why do you think it is so important for progressives to support the Palestine solidarity movement?
Well, what's happening in Palestine is genocide and ecocide, which my people certainly are all too familiar with. And, it's happening in Palestine in the name of Zionism. So we have to stand in solidarity against a genocide, any genocide, but particularly with Palestine right now, and other First Peoples around the world. So with a platform as a senator, I use that platform for my activism and my solidarity. And it's not the Lidia Thorpe seat. It's the Black Sovereign Movement seat. It's the Palestine Solidarity seat. It's the West Papua Solidarity seat. It's the Kanaki Solidarity seat. So a genocide is a genocide, and we have to stand together to free Palestine, to free West Papua. And if we don't, then we become complicit, and we just become like them. So it is in my duty, through my ancestors, to stand up and continue the fight and bring other people along on that journey. We have to build international solidarity against genocide everywhere.
So we're coming to the end of the interview, and we wanted to ask you about a recent comment you made on social media. You recently described the so-called tough on crimes reforms across the Northern Territory and Queensland as veiled politics of racial control and not solutions to prevent crime. Can you just comment a little bit more about this?
Well, again, it's genocide by targeting our babies. From the age of 10 years of age, our babies are being locked up. They're being put in the back of divvy wagons. They're being strip searched. They are being treated in the most inhumane way and continually sought after, like profiled by the state police, and being made to be the problem in the media's eyes. So it's a really, it's that race to the bottom that the Lib, Nat, and Labor do together as a little club, who can get the furthest to scrape the bottom of the barrel, while locking up 10-year-olds, demonising 10-year-olds is a racist policy that is perpetrated by the state. It's just another day in the colony. Our children are disproportionately imprisoned right across this country. We see all the news in the NT. Well, this is happening in Queensland and WA as well, and in Victoria. This is happening everywhere. Our children are targeted. They're made out to be the problem, when we know that our communities have self-determined solutions that don't get the resources, that don't get the support that they need to make their own decisions for their own children, for their own communities. So the government frame our people, our babies, our children, in a way that people become fearful, and that, we're we're subhuman, which is what they said when they invaded us, that we were subhuman. We weren't even, worthy of having any status. So children should not be blamed for the inability of these governments to not be doing the right thing, and that is listening to communities and elders and parents and leaders who are saying, "Hey, we got the solutions. We got no youth workers here." When I hear that in the Northern Territory, youth programs with no youth workers struggling for resources, and we have governments funding the police dogs in in the Northern Territory, and funding a whole police station in WA out of our money, out of the Aboriginal, the Australian Indigenous Advancement Strategy money, from the federal money that's meant to come to us for programs. They spent it on police dogs and police stations when we could have been employing young people with lived experience in their own communities to work with their own communities. So it is racist, and that's what we're dealing with, and that's what we've had to deal with for, since this place was set up in 1901. And that's why I'm there to call it what it is, and use this platform where I can.
Thank you so much for joining us, Lidia, and we will continue to support the incredible work that you do to advocate for First Nations justice, other oppressed peoples, and the solidarity that you show to all liberation struggles around the world. So thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure, sister, and they're going to have a fight on their hands, and I'll need as much support as I possibly can get.
Thank you, and we'll see you out on the Survival Day, Invasion Day at the protest.
I'll be, I won't be in Victoria, I'll be somewhere else, but I'll be protesting, don't you worry about that.
Great, and lastly, thank you for yelling at Charles. That was one of the highlights of 2024.
Well, it was an absolute pleasure and privilege to have my ancestors. I felt my ancestors with me that day, and they're the ones who said, "Righto, time to let him speak. Now go." Now, I feel the privilege and honour of having my ancestors with me and allowing me to do what I do.
Thanks for watching this episode of The Green Left Show, and thank you to the incredible Lidia Thorpe for joining us today. As I said at the beginning, if you'd like to support the work we do, you can head to greenleft.org.au/support, and it makes a huge difference. Also, please like, share, comment on this show, and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to get our content directly as well. So as I said, thanks for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode.